Hello everyone and welcome to our April's PrestaShop public demo. As always, we have a few presentations, few demos for you among other news about our open source platform. I will start with presenting you the people who join along me for today's demo. We have Daniel, who is going to present you with the changes on front office. We have Valentin, who is our front-end magician, and we have Thomas, who is our core maintainer, and he will talk about a new distribution API. I'm Christian, I'm tech evangelist for Poland and maintainer. I will be your host for today. A little agenda for today. First, I will tell you about event rules. Then we have project news segment, and then we will have 3 demos. At the end, we will have question and answers segment. Event rules, as always, please use the chat to ask questions. There's a little delay between what we see and what you see, so don't hesitate to ask them as soon as possible. Those can be questions about what you see in today's presentation or about the project as an overall. This event is about PrestaShop open source project, so keep topics about PrestaShop company out of today's event. This event is public and recording will be available on YouTube later. And last but not least, please remember about our code of conduct. Let's go to our project news. As you might notice, this segment was called Project Announcements. We decided to change it to Project News, but still we are starting from version announcements. First, I would like to talk about 2 releases that were released in the March. 1784 and 1785. For the 1784, this release has been delivered on the 3rd of March, and this patch release fixes 23 regressions that were reported since the 178 release. And what's more important, there was a critical issue with 1784 that has been fixed via 1785. So if you happen to install 1784, we highly encourage you and we recommend you to update to 1785. One thing I would like to mention in this segment is a new page that has been added to our developer documentation. The team is working on the page which has all notable changes that are coming in PrestaShop 8. So if you are working with PrestaShop and you are a developer working on teams, on the core, on modules, it's a must see for you. I highly recommend you to read this page and make sure that you are familiar with all the notable changes that are coming to the next major version of PrestaShop software. And I think we can go to the demos. First, I would like to invite Thomas, who will be talking about a new distribution API. Thomas,
Hey.
I think you can start. If you want to share your screen, feel free to it.
Exactly. Share screen. Okay. It should be all right.
Yes. Okay.
All right. So I'm going to talk about the new distribution API. And the first question is, why do we need a distribution API? So as you might know, with PrestaShop 8, we're going to try to make the open source project completely independent from the PrestaShop company. So to do so, we need to decouple the core from the add-ons API, because today we are relying a lot on the add-ons API. But to see if we do that, merchants won't be able anymore to download the native module if they disinstall it, or to install the auto-grade module, for instance. Because today we are relying on the add-ons platform to download those modules. So we need to give a way for merchants to download those modules. And also we need to give marketplaces tools to update their module to show that they provide module updates. But I'm gonna detail everything a bit later. So how do we do that? We're gonna do that in 3 parts. So the first one is with a new distribution API. This API will be, the goal of this API is to provide information about the native modules, the name, their PrestaShop version compatibility, logo, etc. Then we need a new core module that will fill the gap between this distribution API and the core. So we can download those modules directly from the module manager. And lastly, a new module manager that other modules can interact with, such as marketplace, like MBO, for instance. So about the first part, the distribution API, it's already available on the PrestaShop on GitHub. How it works is very simple. It's a CLI application using Symfony console, and it only runs a sequence of commands. The first one is it will download the main file of every native module for every version of those modules, because on the main file you can find the information about the version compatibility, the name, the description, everything. Then the second command is the download of the file install/install_version.php for every PrestaShop version. Because this file contains information about the compatibility of PHP with PrestaShop. Then, thanks to those downloaded files, the third command is the goal of the third command is to generate JSON files that contains the information of those module compatibility, PrestaShop compatibility, etc. And for now, this is running into a GitHub action, and the last step of the GitHub action is to upload those JSON files to a server that will serve those files as static. If we have a look at the server that we are using actually right now, as you can see, the URL starts with integration because it's only for testing purpose at the moment, but later we're gonna have the api.prestashopproject.org endpoint. So the first endpoint is the PrestaShop endpoint, and here you'll have the information about every PrestaShop versions and their PHP compatibility. I'm saying every version, but it's actually false because today it's starting at 1.6.1.10. But keep in mind that this is only for testing purpose right now, because when it will be fully released, it will start at PrestaShop 8. So here you can see that you have, for instance, with the version 1.7.8.5, you have the max PHP version and the min PHP version. Then we have 3 other endpoints related to channels, such as RC, stable, and beta. So if we try with beta, you're gonna have the latest available beta. So today it's the 1.7.8.0 beta 1. Same thing for the RC, and same thing for the stable. So today the latest stable is 1.7.8.5. So those endpoints will be used mostly for the auto upgrade module. We're making improvement on the auto upgrade module, and we'll be using this API. It's not using it already, but it's the goal. And then we have the modules endpoint. So if I'm trying this URL, for instance, by doing so, I'm trying to find every native module, the latest version available of every native module for this specific PrestaShop version. So if I do so, I can see that I have a lot of modules like auto upgrade, block reassurance, block wishlist, gamification, etc. And I will find here the compatibility range. So this endpoint on this URL today is not complete. I have a more accurate version on my local machine. I can show you here if I do so. I have less module, but I have more info here. Like the auto grade, I can have the display name, the tab, the description, the author, the version we had already, the download URL, very important, so we can download it, and the icon of the modules. So this information will be used in the module I will show you later, and we'll be able to show those modules in the back office. So this is for the distribution API. Now comes the new module manager. So the main goal of this module manager is to get rid of the add-ons related API calls, as I told you before, and it adds 10 new hooks that module can use to interact with this module manager. And the goal of that is to allow marketplaces to show already bought module or upgrades that are available in a single place instead of managing it themselves. As of today, there is only one marketplace we know, officially at least, for PrestaShop, which is MBO. But we can imagine that we have multiple marketplaces, and they will have a way to provide their updates in a single point instead of having to go in every marketplace to see which updates is available. And last part is the new distribution API module. So as of today, it's only available on my personal GitHub profile, but it will be soon transferred to the PrestaShop organization. And so, as I told you before, the main goal of this module is to fill the gap between the API I show you and the new module manager. So how it works, it's very simple. It uses the new hooks provided by the new module manager, and it allows merchants to install and update the modules listed by the distribution API. So for now, it's only native module, and that will be always the only native module for this module. But we can see that the new version of MBO, which will be available on the PrestaShop company version of the PrestaShop open source project, will work similarly by using those hooks to provide updates. Okay, so I can show you what it looks like already. If I go on my PrestaShop installation, I can see that I have a new module that is called Distribution API Client. So for now, if I'm looking, for instance, for auto upgrade, I have no possibility to install it. And also, I would like to have the product comments that I especially uninstalled, and I can see I don't have it. Okay. So now I'm trying to install this new module. And when I do so, I'm going to have new native modules available, such as customer reassurance and the auto upgrade module and the product comment module. So it's available. But to show you how it works with updates, I'm going to install a previous version of the product comment module. Here we go. And if I go on update now, I can see that I have an update available. So from 500 to 501, and I can upgrade this module. And here we go. We have the product comment module upgraded. Product comment 501. So now if I disable this module, I don't see the previous module here. I don't see the auto upgrade, but I still have the product comments, of course, because I actually installed it. And that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Thomas.
Welcome.
Yeah, so the question from Joe, but it has been answered by one of ours. So great work, Thomas. And if there are
Thanks.
any questions, let us know. Feel free to ask them on the chat, and we will get back to you at the end of the demo. Thank you, Thomas. And now we are going to Daniel, who is going to talk us through his recent contributions about front office optimization. So Daniel, feel free to present us what you've done.
Hi, I will just share my screen and share screen. Screen number 1. I hope. All right. Full screen? F11? No. How do you make it full screen? Like this?
You just need to present. Yeah.
All right. So hi everyone. I recently made some pull requests that are concerning the front office, and I think it's gonna benefit all merchants. So I will guide you through it. The first thing was that my clients that sell only stuff that is in stock, so they have back orders disabled. They were complaining that the customers were able to order, like imagine you had a one piece of product in stock and you had a back orders disabled, but two customers at the same time could get to the checkout and order it. So this led to at least one angry customer. So because the quantities of the products and then minimal quantities and stuff like that is checked only on cart page, and if the customers got after the cart page into the checkout, there was no check anymore. So if they got there, they could finish the order just fine, even though the product was not in stock. So basically, this is how it looks. You had two customers, and basically the quantities were checked only till the first step. I think in the first step there was some kind of check, but once they got after this black line, like nothing could stop them from ordering the product. So what I did was that now on every single step of the checkout, the quantities are checked, the minimum quantities are checked, and everything. Basically the same checks as on the cart page. And also, when you click on the confirm order button, there's an AJAX request that also checks like one last time if it's really in stock. If it's not, it's gonna redirect him to the cart page. So at least maybe he'll be a bit angry that somebody bought it before him, but at least you don't have to have angry customers on email and on phone and deal with this kind of stuff. So that's one change. Second thing is second category description. Like usually it goes like this, that if you make good content for people with useful information, with unique information, it's also good for search engines, and they will recognize it and they will rank you high. But sometimes the SEO agencies or like the merchants want to put like a lot of text to the category to stuff it with keywords, and it's not very good to put it in the main description, because if you put it to the main description, the page is gonna be insanely long and it's just terrible. It's the users have to scroll down on every page load, so that's a no-go. Or you can have it in the collapse, which I use for the main description, but which is good for normal descriptions, but not for much for SEO, because the search engine prefer the content that is visible right away. If it's hidden in some collapse or in a module or something, they will index it, but I think there won't be any like much weight given to the text if it's hidden. So the good solution, which even the big shops do, is to make a second description under the product list, where you can put all these all this information that like it's not really for people but only for search engines, and I think it's not gonna bother anyone in there. This is how it looks. It's called additional description, and it's right below the main one on the edit category page. You can see the PR details if you're interested after the presentation. This is how it looks in Classic. It's going to be implemented in Hummingbird also. Oh, that's all. So this PR was merged today. So if you agree to develop, you can check the feature. We made it. We didn't call it bottom description because Christian or somebody pointed out that if we call it additional, it can be used also for other purposes than the bottom one. You can, I don't know, put it to the sidebar or something. Next, I made a PR which is not ready yet, and well, it is ready, but we had some discussion if it's proper to merge it to the core now or later, because we don't want to complicate the upgrade too much. So I want to know your opinion. Right now, one guy on GitHub opened issue about the URL of the logins of the registration page, because currently it's going to the auth controller, but with the parameter of create account 1. This is it's ugly, and you can't translate it, and also it could maybe make some kind of complication if some other like tracking parameters were to be appended after the URL. Also, inside the control, if you check the logics of the auth controller, it's basically one big if statement where there are like two flows, one for login, one for registration. So I don't know why it was chosen to be one controller back then, but I think it would be better if it was separated. So I made a new registration controller, and I extracted the old logic from the auth controller regarding the account creation and put it to this new controller. So the new URL for registration could be just simple and nice, and you can translate it, and also it will be easier to manage, and there will be no conditions. Now, it didn't require any change in the theme, so that's good, because all the URLs are passed from the core, and they are set. The URLs to the login and register are set in the front controller class for all the controls in the front office. I think the function is called general purpose variables or something. If somebody makes a GET request, I put a condition so he will get redirected. So that's all good. Maybe it could be a problem if some theme was using some kind of login pop-ups and it was posting to the old URL. This will not work currently, but we can make some kind of backward compatibility condition in the get page link. So if someone requests a URL for authentication page with a create account parameter, we can instead return him with registration right away, and we can delete this function in some next versions of PrestaShop. So that could be a solution. Or I don't know if it's possible. Maybe we can somehow repost the data to the correct page and return it. Maybe. What won't work is some third-party sitemap modules. If something like this exists and somebody uses it, it's going to return a bad URL for the registration. And maybe unreal scenario, but maybe there's somebody who with some homemade modification makes a post request to some hard-coded URL. This won't work, I think. So if you think it's not a big BC break, maybe it could be merged to the PrestaShop 8. If there are some theme developers that think it's bad and it's going to complicate the upgrade, you can maybe include it in some later version. And that's all from me, I think. And next one is Valentin with his theme presentation.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Daniel. So yeah, if there is anyone who happens to be a team or module developer, Feel free to give us your feedback about what Daniel mentioned about registration controller. And yeah, Daniel, thank you very much for your work, because those were two very much anticipated features from PrestaShop. So I think everyone will be very, very happy about it, to have it inside the core without additional modules. One thing I would like to mention is that if you happen to be a module developer and you create some payment module, and you want to have your these checks about quantities in your module, so it needs, from what I recall, it needs additional Ajax request, right, Daniel?
Yes.
So if payment module replaces default confirmation button, it requires module developer to make additional Ajax request, but everything is handled via event emitter, and we will update the documentation accordingly. So Daniel, thank you very much again. If you guys, if you have any questions to Daniel, feel free to ask them on the chat. And right now I will ask Valentin on the stage to present us current state of the Hummingbird team. Thank you, Daniel. Hello, Valentin, and I will leave you the presentation.
Yeah, I still share my screen if you can add it.
Sure. Here we go.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm going to talk about what we did on the new team in the past few weeks. So the first thing, if you didn't see it yet, the new team has a name. It's now called Hummingbird. It means that we changed the repository name of the theme to Hummingbird, and every configuration is linked to it. In the past few weeks, we worked on adding a few components to the team because we needed some components in order to do some things. The first one was use toast, and it was did by Empervazi. Thanks for the great help, because he worked on most of these components. So use alert is used to generate an alert anywhere on the page on the team. It's based on some Smarty markups, and in case the Smarty markups isn't there, it's based on a fallback inside the JavaScript. Use toast is almost the same thing, but it's related to toast. It means that you can generate toast anywhere on the team. Even if you are on a module context, you can do it. Use quantity input is used for every quantity input on the whole team because we have some quantity inputs, for example, on the product page, on the checkout page, and we needed to handle the state of this input and call some requests while using it. Use progress ring is mainly used on the checkout page, on the responsive form of the checkout page. It permits you to manage some steps of a progress ring. And use password policy is the last one we did. It's not merged yet, but it's related to the new password policy feature that should be added soon on the core, I think so. It permits us to enforce the password policy on the front end. All of these components are still exposed to a window object, and we will see it later while seeing the documentation. We are also now able to write some tests on the new theme because we implemented Jest. Jest tests are still running inside the CI. It means that if you provide a pull request, the CI will run, and we can see if something is broke on your pull request related to the test we write. So it's pretty cool. If you want to write some tests, you can still mock some DOM parts using JSDOM because we configured it on the Jest thing inside the team. Currently tested components are use alert, use toast, use quantity input, and helpers. And we have some other component that we want to test yet. If you want to write some tests on any components, don't hesitate. I mean, you can contribute. It will be a pleasure to review it. I think it was like 2 weeks ago, but we worked on creating a new issue with hreftalks. It took us like half a day, gathering every issues on the whole team in order to to merge it on a single issue in order to stabilize a bit more the team. So you can find it on this URL. If you want to contribute, don't hesitate to comment on the issue and tell us what you want to pick up. It's mainly some good first issues that you can take on the team, I think so. And I already worked on fixing a lot of these issues, so the list is small now. In the past few weeks, I still implemented Storybook to Hummingbird 2. Let's go to the link. Okay, I think it's there. So Storybook permits us to write some documentations linked to every components which are inside the new team. First of all, you can see that every Bootstrap components are on the Storybook. It permits us to see how Bootstrap components are configured on the new theme. It's pretty cool when you work on integrating things and see how things looks. And the second thing is a JavaScript part where we can write some documentation about JavaScript components, and you're still able to test every component directly inside the Storybook. For those who don't know Storybook, it's a really powerful tool because it permits us to test a lot of things like sizes, like on the responsive view, like some accessibility things. For example, if you have some trouble on seeing things, it's a really cool tool. Don't hesitate to take a look on the Storybook if you want. It's pretty cool. We have some more components to add it. For example, the only one is useToast for the moment, but we need to document every component like use alert, use progress string, and any others component. You can also see the full documentation of the component on the docs tab. I think in the future, we will still add it to the default view because it's more important than just testing the component itself. On this tab, you can find the concept of the component and how we designed it. You can find every options that you can use on the component because the component is exposed to a window object. It means that child themes, modules, and whatever can still use any components exported from the team. And you can find the TypeScript implementation, and you can see some examples about how to use these components directly on your context. It's pretty cool. If you want to contribute on the documentation, it's easy. The full documentation is inside the Hummingbird repository, so it's the same place of the team. Don't hesitate. Honestly, there are a lot of things to write, even about only the team. Some features like, for example, the header thing could be documented, the checkout process could be documented too. There are a lot of things to write because there are no documentation right now. What's next? I think we're going to explore the team now. Okay, so where is it? I think it's there. So what we worked on the team in the past few weeks is mainly about the checkout process, the cart page. We did integrate and fix some bugs on the cart page. So now it's now beautiful. And as you can see, it should be fully responsive. I'm going to add one more product so we can see a bit more how it reacts when you have multiple products on the cart. And with multiple products on the responsive, it looks like this. Everything is still updating when you change the quantity. You can still remove a product, but I won't do it there. Let's continue on the checkout process. The checkout process is not really fully finished because we detected some bugs with hrefs on some things inside the checkout process, but I think it's close to the finished state. So as you can see, you can change between steps directly with the new components on the top. Let's continue to the process. We did integrate the new mockups that Scott did like months ago. And you can still configure whatever you want. And at any step of the process, you can still use the button on the bottom or use the steps on the top in order to move in the process. And as you can see, we already worked on the summary at the end. And if you want to edit some things, you can still edit or click on the edit button and do whatever you want. I find the mockups pretty cool now. Let me know if you find it cool. And okay, I think when we finished the process, we did. Oh, there is a bug there because I came back to a past step. So when you finish the process, we also worked on the final summary at the end, so it's cleaner and information are split as we want, and that's it, I think. I'm going to show you a small example of a component we did. Oh, I was too fast because I disabled the cache. So here is an example of how we use the useToast component. For example, if we eat too much quantities and validate, we use the useToast component in order to show some errors on the cart page. And I think that's it. It's almost the same thing for the alert component, and the password policy isn't merged yet. So I'm going to show you in a future demo, I think so. And cool. There are some things left. I would like to talk about what's left. We need to finish the issue list we did with hreftalks 2 weeks ago. We need to work on the category page because we didn't work that much on the category page yet. I mean, I worked on the faced search module and made it work with a new markup, but it needs some work on the markup and integration in order to collapse to the mockup. We didn't work on the quick view yet. I think Empervazi worked on the quick view, but it's not finished because it doesn't look like the mockups. At least it's working, but we need to refactor it a bit more. The edit to cart model isn't finished too. We need to think about the accessibility because it was something, it was a pain point for Classic in the past. We had multiple people coming to GitHub and creating issues because accessibility wasn't really good on Classic. So we need to focus on this at the end of the process. We need to think about some performance improvements. I think hreftalks will smile about it because he knows what I talk about. We need to split bundles, for example, in order to make it lighter. We need to take care about our lighthouse core. We need to take care about a lot of things regarding this. And we also need to make a choice about the slider thing we have on the home page and probably on the product page also. We need to find the best slider for you guys. I know a lot of you asked us to use a special slider, for example, but we need to find the best solution in order to make everyone happy. And then we're going to polish everything up. And then I think we will be able to send the team to product validation and probably QA after all, but it will be in the future. It's not finished yet, so thank you everyone for listening me. And if you want to work on some little things on the front end and on the new team, don't hesitate. There are a lot of things to do, and I really think we don't need a really big level in order to work on it. So thank you.
Thank you, Valentin. Awesome job, really. Amazing job. You, Daniel, and Parvazi, and everyone involved, amazing job. I will now ask everyone to come on stage to answer some questions. And please welcome Pablo Borovic, who is with us from now on, and he will answer your questions if there are any. We can start with question from Joe. Is it possible to handle quantity checking in order controller on creation instead of an Ajax call? And I think I can answer that because it all depends on the payment integrator. Some wants to redirect the customer to their page, and when you come back with the already paid order, it would be complicated. So it all depends on the payment provider. We believe that with the checking on the last step of the order, when you actually clicking the confirmation button, that's the latest step you can check the quantities. Daniel, would you like to add something?
No, I think you answered it precisely.
All right.
I want to confirm that the quantities are checked in the core on every load of the checkout step, and then the only Ajax check is on the final confirmation button click. But maybe we can improve it in there that it could redirect like from the core and not by JavaScript, maybe before the validate order in the payment module class. I don't know. We can check it out maybe. So it's not dependent on the payment module. But there are some payment modules that implement their own logic for the order validation. Or it used to be like this in 1.6 days. I don't know if it's still a thing, but maybe somebody will know. So the payment
I think
module
it's the same for 1.7. We would need to rethink our strategy when it comes to payment modules, and that would introduce a lot of BC breaks. So I think it's a good solution for now, and something to be discussed in the future maybe. Like I said before, I think it's a step towards it's a good thing to have it anyway. All right, so I'm checking for other questions. I think Tatu is suggesting that we can redirect temporarily that keeps the original method, redirect 307. I think it's about registration page.
Yeah, but I googled. I think that post request can be redirected, but maybe somebody will correct me.
Yeah, I think it's for the safety measure, but it's something to.
But maybe we can take the
check.
post request and build a new one and repost it to the correct URL.
I think that would involve asking another. I think it cannot be done via redirect, but I didn't work like this, so I didn't have this scenario. Pablo, any ideas?
I'm not. How to say? I don't know the specifics, but it's not impossible to redirect from a post request to a GET request by the means of a response. So the idea will be that, instead of responding, because I don't know if you can downgrade, change the nature of the request, like say. So you did a post here, and it's not a post; it's a GET, but you can redirect to a GET request. So
what we want to do,
location.
It's a bit different. What we want to do, what we want to do is to keep the post request from one page to another, but the redirect the URL has changed because we believe that some developers with modules for example, registration from pop-up created their module with the form that sends post request with the data like email and password, for example, to /login, and the new page is /registration. So we were wondering if it's possible to redirect those requests to the new page.
Well, in the end, what matters is not what the page looks like, the URL looks like when you access it, but rather what the page looks like when you have done the action. For example, if you go to a login action and you send a post, if this page handles the login and then redirects you to the proper page that you want to get to, you don't mind if it's post or get. What matters is that the action is handled and that the visual cues from the URL that the user gets is the one that you expected. For example, so if we're talking about a page that was originally a get parameter, and once the processing has been done, you get to a nice rewritten URL. So it doesn't matter if the rewritten URL is actually the one that's handling the action, as long as when you get to that page, the action has been processed. So you can just handle the original URL like it used to be, and then issue a redirect to a get page.
Okay,
Unless
so I think we can discover more about it inside your pull request, Daniel. We have another question, this time from Antoine, who is asking if this component for switching steps in the checkout will work with some third-party modules. Are there any events like mark current step or go to the previous step and so on? Valentin?
I think it should, yeah. But we need to test it. I can't say yes, like this. We didn't test it yet, so
I think it's too soon to talk about compatibility with the third-party modules, and this is also something to where we can use feedback from module developers and team developers.
Yeah, it's a need anyway, so we will test it.
Another question from Antoine is are sliders are still a thing nowadays?
No.
I think Daniel responded to this. I was talking about the slider on the home page and the slider on the product images on the product page. So I think it's a thing in order to manage the images on the product page. So maybe it was a troll or
and also we could use some library to for product sliders, right?
Yeah.
On mobile.
It's gonna be the same one, I think. We want to use something like glider. It's just a JavaScript sprinkle on top of CSS overflow, so it's lightweight. And maybe Valentin will write something on his own, but we can use it.
Actually, we use the Bootstrap slider, but it's really, really limited, and it doesn't permit team developers to do some fancy features. And there are some really light sliders that we could use in order to make the team developers' life easier. So we need to think about it. And the same thing about the images zoom. When you click on the image on the product page, we should think about a complete system in order to show every images properly. Maybe we thought about photo swipe or something like this with Daniel, but it's not really decided yet.
Okay.
There is a slider in the Figma sketch, but there's also like a banners under the slider, which maybe are a better solution, because if somebody lands on the page, he has like 5 seconds to see where everything is and what's the page about. And if you show him 3 banners at the same time, he gets more information than one slider that nobody will wait for, I think. Which is, have you ever waited for a slider to slide to another one? I never did, I think.
Okay, the next question is interesting one. Even though there's a discussion on chat, I think we could take on this one. Are we planning to integrate the Hummingbird team in V8, even if it's even behind feature flag? Is it planned, or the new team is coming later, for example, in V9? I think Pablo could be a good person to answer for this.
Yeah, even though it very much like to replace Classic with Hummingbird in V8, I don't think the theme is ready for it, and we can't risk delaying the release of V8. I don't think it's worth it to include alternative themes in the package, but that said, everyone is free to use the theme they want. So if they want to use Hummingbird to test, or just to build their own theme, or do whatever they like, they're absolutely free to do so. They just need to add it on their themes directory before installing, and the theme will show up during install, and you will be able to choose which theme you want to use during install.
Okay, and Valentin, Daniel, correct me if I'm wrong, but Hummingbird doesn't need any core changes from the backend, so it would be possible in the future to just test it out because it's a separated repository, it's a separated project.
Yeah, one of the acceptance criteria of the team was to be compatible with the latest 1.7 version. It means that it shouldn't rely on some core API changes of the V8. So it should work as expected on the latest 1.7 version.
Okay, makes sense. Joey, I think we can discuss the checking of quantities in pull request or on Slack. If any other community member has any feedback about it, feel free to comment on the chat, or as always, we highly recommend to use our open source Slack channel. The next question is about WebP, and I think we have partially good news because WebP will be supported in V8, but not fully. And the not fully part is about frontend. Correct me if I'm wrong, frontend magicians.
Daniel, maybe you want to talk about it.
Actually, we are waiting for the core team to implement some changes in the WebP generation for us to continue with the changes, because there's no way we can do it without. Because the WebP is implemented, but in a way that it only generates WebP, which is unusable, and it must be so it generates both the legacy JPEG PNG combo and the modern formats alongside.
So we can just generate JPEG pretending to be WebP.
What?
Because you are talking about the extension of the file, or?
No, you must generate all the assets at the same time, because not all browsers still support WebP properly, I think.
Oh, okay, all right, okay.
So there must be a picture tag with multiple sources, and the browser will select the best one. And each source will have a source set, so you have like multiple thumbnail dimensions in multiple formats.
Okay, all right.
The way that it's implemented right now, if I'm not mistaken, is that if you choose WebP, you only get WebP. You don't get JPEG on the side. But even if we implemented the feature, which we will probably do, so that if you can get your thumbnails in multiple formats at the same time, the theme will still need to support that with the features that are needed to add the necessary markup, so that the browser can choose what format to use automatically.
Okay, and who is our Internet Explorer? Safari?
Oh man, Internet Explorer is going to die really soon. Please don't speak about it.
yeah. But I have the feeling that Safari is quite a successor.
Safari is the black sheep that has problems. Or it supports, but maybe from some last macOS 6 version, it was like. But I think 2 years ago it was not supported. And WebP is with us like 8 years or 10 or something, and they still weren't able to make the support. So we will wait for AVIF like another 10 years, I think, on Macs.
Yeah, and Joe is asking if Hummingbird will be only compatible with V8, and I think Valentin already answered that. The idea behind Hummingbird is to make it compatible with 178 core. So yeah, I think everyone could use can use Hummingbird team in 172. And interesting comment from Jean-Francois. He says that WebP is only an issue on our old macOS. I think it's something to discover just to make sure that WebP is fully supported. But thank you for your comment anyway. Are there any more questions? I don't see more questions, and we are 5 minutes from 5. So I think we can end for today. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you every presenter for your demos. Thank you, Pablo, for attending our Q&A session. And as always, see you next month on our May public PrestaShop demo. Thank you, guys.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.